I have read about the nature of grace is the ability to fill empty spaces. And in the last 2 years, Mount Evans, the grace of Mount Evans has filled so many empty spaces in our family's life over the last 2 years, over and over again. So this is our story. It's Mount Evans. September of 2015, Gene took our son, Aaron, to St. Anthony's emergency room. He'd been having all kinds of problems with his eyes and headaches and so forth. I got the call middle of the morning, and they said, we're going to be here all day, because this is, some bad stuff is coming, I'm afraid. Marley, who was 13, his granddaughter over there, was quite aware of the situation that he was in and very concerned and knew that was a big day to try to find out what was going on with his health. So I went to her house at 3 o'clock that afternoon to be there when she got home. Becky, her stepmom, was at work. And I watched Marley walk down the road from the bus stop. She got to the gate. And she said, Grandpa, is anybody called? Is anybody called? What do you know? I said, I don't know anything yet. It wasn't no more than a couple of minutes until she got to the front door and the phone rang. It was Aaron. So I had some really kind of bad news, Dad, and Marley. I've got a stage 3 glioblastoma brain tumor, and there's no cure. They'll be able to treat it. The first words out of Marley's mouth were, Grandpa, who's going to walk me down the aisle? With those words, I knew that our life had changed forever from that point on. Just a few days later, he had surgery. Several days later, he came home from the hospital. And now Mount Evans Health started to step in. That was our first connection with them. All the different physical therapists started coming, speech and occupational, so forth. Our son never met a stranger. If you cross his path, he would suddenly bond with you, as he did with all the PT people. He loved seeing them come. After 3 weeks, he had done so well. That was the good news. They said, well, we can't do any more for you. We're going to go ahead and sign off now. Aaron was so disappointed that these people were not going to be coming there every few days to work with him. We went to Mount Evans and worked with Sally, who sat down and worked with trying to get us through the reams of paper that takes to get Social Security disability, because Aaron was no longer going to be a massage therapist for the rest of his career. One of the people, and you'll hear me mention every so often, the problem with Mount Evans staff is they don't look at their job descriptions. Sherry, who was one of his PT people, came to our house on a Saturday morning, spent 2 to 3 hours putting together a GoFundMe for Aaron because of the enormous hospital bills. It's not on her. It was not on her list to do. After things kind of straightened out, then it was time to try to get some help, I felt like, for Marley. It is tough enough to be a 13-year-old girl in this world without having to deal with the terrible sickness that her dad had. I talked to people and kind of mentioned we'd like to try to get somebody to help. And I kept hearing Heather Aberg. Heather Aberg's really, really good. I found out later in Evergreen, if you mention the word Heather, they will go, oh, you mean Heather from Mount Evans. Heather has a one-name recognition, like J-Lo, like you mention Heather and they go, oh, to Heather from Mount Evans. The first time I really walked into as a client into Mount Evans, the first person you meet at the desk, and those of you know, is the wonderful Deb. Probably the sweetest human being I've ever seen. I said, here's what I really need to do. She said, well, by luck, Heather Aberg is on duty today. And I do not believe in luck. So I sat down with Heather for an hour. At the end of the hour, there is a bond that lasts through this day and will last for the entire lifetime of our family. Talked to Marley and said, I've got somebody for you to talk to. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'll just talk to your grandpa. I said, well, I'm out of my ream in this thing. You need someone to talk to. Can you just go one time? Just try it once. So I took her, and Heather had asked me an odd question. What kind of a special snack, what kind of special soda pop, anything like that she likes, to maybe break the ice. I said, well, you won't believe it, but she likes V8 juice. So a couple of days later, when I took Marley to see her, first thing we walked into her office, was in a gigantic bottle of V8 juice. And I think at that moment, Marley understood that this was not your average counselor therapist. At the end of the hour, I came back to pick her up, and I kind of put my thumb up, like, did we do okay? Her thumb went way up in the air. She said, Grandpa, this is a woman that I can talk to about anything. That's a powerful statement for a teenager to say to an adult. For the next several months, our entire family, various people of our family, would see Heather and work with her. We jump ahead almost a year. As we were told by the surgeons, Aaron would get much better, which he did in the summer of 2016. He was feeling great. Looked and felt the best that he had in years, but we knew what was going to be coming. And sure enough, starting in October of that year of 2016, we started to see the changes. And they continued going down. Eventually, in January of 2017, we all met at the surgeon's office. Becky, his wife, Jean, my wife. Marley was on her way to the bus stop, turned around, came back and said, I am going. I need to hear what the surgeon's going to say. So all of us went. And after an hour, the surgeon, who was wonderful, said, well, there's nothing left to do, and it's becoming very aggressive. You need to put him into hospice now. So now we pick up in an entirely different part of hospice. So the first thing I do was to call and I get Wendy Snow. And Jean said, oh, Wendy Snow. I've heard so much about this person. When I went to talk to her, I said, Wendy, I have never lost a close loved one. My mother's 102. I never had to deal with this yet. I said, I have no idea what to expect whatsoever. Over and over again, Wendy would say, we'll take care of everything. Over and over, we'll take care of everything. Called her 3-4 times. Don't worry about it, it's done. Half an hour later, she said, it's finished. We took care of it. It is amazing, this grace that Wendy has to touch so many lives every day. And as I told somebody, it's amazing what she can do. She's this quiet, very understated lady. It's amazing. Meg became our nurse. Meg was great, but what I will remember is Meg could be good cop, bad cop. Because Aaron could be very bullheaded because he thought that he could do more than he could. Physically, he was deteriorating a great deal. And I always remember Meg getting in his face and saying to him, listen, you will do this. Don't you do any more of the stuff like you've been doing. You listen exactly what I'm telling you. And he did. He did. There were people now coming there, bringing in all kinds of medical equipment and so forth to help out. And Becky had taken off work for 5.5 weeks. Was a saint for her doing that. There were people coming in now to help with showers and all kinds of these types of situations. In January, the first week in January, we went to the doctor, and we could see now what was starting to come. And on February the 12th, 2017, Marley got to see her dad for quite a while, that late afternoon. The rest of the family was there that evening. He passed away that evening, February the 12th of 2017. 3 weeks later, we had an enormous memorial service at the Methodist Church. It was 400 people, standing room only. It was funny. Many people who were there said, we've never seen a service quite like that. All the laughter and the jokes that went on, and the sadness, and the good memories. Highlight being when Marley followed me up to the podium and without missing a beat spoke about her dad and then said, well, my dad would not want me standing here talking. He would love for me to sing our favorite song that we always sang every time it came on the radio together. It's the Hawaiian version of Over the Rainbow. And Marley sang it. Didn't miss a beat. Did not miss a beat. For the next several months now we're into the grief counseling for Mount Evans, a whole other section of people. Oh, one other quick instance of not following your job description. After he passed, several now Mount Evans people were coming, different kind of people to do paperwork and so forth. Less than 15 or 20 minutes after he passed away, I look in the door and walks Heather. How did you know? She had been notified immediately about it. It was at 6:30 on a Sunday night. She needs to be with her family. And there she was, not as a representative of Mount Evans. She was there as Grace for the rest of our family. So again, we went over several months of grief counseling, everybody in our family doing this. Finally in the fall, Heather called me and said, we have a grief group for parents who lost a child. Are you ready? I said, I don't know. So we went to it, and it was tough. It was really tough. But thanks to Jen Pearson, at the end of an hour and a half, there was a bond between this group that will last forever and ever. Even at the end of 6 weeks, and not just because we are in a special group of people now, unfortunately, but we really bonded with these people. Tremendous love and compassion. At the end of our 6 weeks, we said, gosh, we've got to stay. We can't leave. We've got to see each other. These people are too important. We must stay with them. So Jan looks through her schedule, keeps thumbing through it, and finally came up, well, here's a possibility that we could do once a month. And I don't know if she really had that date or not. She may have just made it up. She probably gave up her nail tech appointment that day so that our group could continue to meet. We have attended the remembrance ceremony that they had, our entire family. There were 7 of us who came to that. We have gone to the empty chair, which is a class for those of you getting ready to miss the first Thanksgiving or the first Christmas without your loved one. We went to the potluck supper that was provided by the staff. If you want a tremendous pot of soup, talk to Charlie. Unbelievable what they provided for us. We have hit every gamut, it seems like, of Mount Evans. And again, they have constantly been there over and over again. So I'd like Gene to come up for just a moment. When we talk about grace of filling empty spots, we all go through the ambiguity of life. The highs, the lows, the sadness, the happiness, joys. Mount Evans took us at the lowest point in our lives, our entire family, and brought them to a point that we can kind of walk in the sunlight now. We truly can. And through Mount Evans, the relationships, the friendships that we've made with all the staff at Mount Evans is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So Gene and I have, for many, many years, have lived by this little mantra. And it's happened over and over again, and every time it turns out, oh, it happened again. It happened again. This comes from an old Garth Brooks song, which says, I could have missed the pain, but I would have missed the dance. So thank you for allowing us to share our family story with you.